Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. When was the last time you drove to your child's house, or maybe flew across the country, and came home feeling good? Feeling light? Feeling like you mattered? If you have to think about it for more than a few seconds, this video is one you need to hear. I've sat across from thousands of parents, good, loving, devoted parents, who came into my office with one question they were almost ashamed to ask. Is it okay to stop visiting my own child? And every single time, I could see it in their eyes, the guilt, the confusion, the heartbreak of even considering it. Because society tells us that good parents never give up. Good parents always show up. Good parents keep the door open no matter what. But here's what 40 years of experience have taught me, and I need you to really hear this. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your child and for yourself is to stop showing up at their door. Not because you've stopped loving them, not because you're punishing them, but because the way things are right now is slowly destroying you. And you deserve better than that. Today, I'm going to walk you through 6 specific times when you should stop visiting your adult children, even if it hurts. Even if every bone in your body is screaming that you should keep trying. If you've ever sat in your car in your child's driveway, taking a deep breath before walking in because you don't know what kind of reception you'll get, stay with me until the end. What I'm about to share could change the way you see yourself, your child, and the relationship between you. And before we dive in, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Here at Strong Elderly Life, we talk about the things nobody else wants to say out loud. The hard truths. The real conversations. You're not alone in this, and this channel is proof of that. Now, before I give you these 6 times, I need to say something important. Stepping back from visiting your child is not the same as stopping loving your child. I'm going to repeat that because some of you need to tattoo it on your heart. Stepping back is not the same as giving up. In fact, it takes far more courage to step back than it does to keep showing up and suffering in silence. Anyone can keep driving to a place where they're hurt. It takes real strength to say, I love you, but I love myself too, and this is not okay. Think of it this way. If you had a friend who treated you the way your child treats you, would you keep going back? Most of you would say no. But because it's your child, you accept things you would never accept from anyone else on this planet. That ends today. Not with anger. Not with resentment. But with clarity. So let's begin. Time number 1. When you're treated like you're invisible. Here's the first one, and it's more common than people realize. You drive 45 minutes to your daughter's house. You knock on the door. She lets you in, gives you a quick hug, if you're lucky, and then she goes right back to her phone. Her husband is in the other room watching TV. The kids run past you like you're a piece of furniture. You sit on the couch. Nobody asks how you're feeling. Nobody asks about your week. Nobody offers you a glass of water. You're just there, present in body, but invisible in every way that matters. And after 2 hours of sitting in that silence, you drive home. And somewhere on that drive, a thought creeps in that breaks your heart. Do I even matter to them? Let me tell you what's happening here from a psychological perspective. This is what we call emotional erosion. It doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens slowly, visit after visit, like water wearing down a stone. Each time you're ignored, a tiny piece of your self-worth chips away. And here's the danger. After enough visits like this, you stop expecting anything at all. You lower your standards so far that simply being allowed in the house starts to feel like a win. That is not love. That is survival. The sign you need to watch for is this. If you consistently leave your child's home questioning your own value as a human being, something is deeply wrong. Not with you. With the situation. Here's what I recommend. Have one honest conversation. Just one. Tell your child, calmly and without accusation. When I visit, I feel invisible. I don't need a parade. I just need to feel like you're glad I'm here. Then pay attention to what happens next. If things improve, wonderful. But if the next visit is exactly the same, it's time to space those visits out. way out. Time number 2. When they only call because they need something. The second time you should stop visiting is when you notice a painful pattern. Your phone rings, and for a moment your heart lifts. It's your son. But before you can even enjoy the call, the request comes. Hey mom, can you watch the kids Saturday? We've got plans. Or, Dad, the car needs work. Can you help with the bill? And you say yes. You always say yes. Because that's what parents do, right? But here's what I want you to ask yourself. When was the last time your child called just to say hello? When was the last time they invited you over with no agenda? When was the last time they wanted your company, not your car, not your wallet, not your babysitting? If you can't remember, you have your answer. What's happening here is that you've been shifted from a parent into a resource. This is what psychologists call a transactional relationship. It's not built on love and connection. It's built on what you can provide. And the moment you can't provide it anymore, which happens as we age, you become disposable to them. That thought should make you angry. Not because anger is destructive, but because anger is sometimes the alarm bell that tells you a boundary has been crossed. The sign is unmistakable. You feel valued only when you're giving something. The moment you show up with empty hands, you feel unwelcome. Here's my advice, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. The next time your child calls with a request, say no. Just once. Say, I can't this time, sweetheart. Then watch what happens. Do they say, that's okay, Mom, let's just have lunch instead? Or does the phone go quiet for weeks? Their reaction will tell you everything you need to know about where you actually stand. Time number 3. When they criticize or humiliate you in front of others. This third one cuts deep. And if you've experienced it, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. You're sitting at the dinner table. Your son's wife is there. The grandchildren are there. And your child says something that hits like a slap, right in front of everyone. Mom, you always do this. Dad, nobody asked for your opinion. Here she goes again. Can you just not? Maybe they roll their eyes when you speak. Maybe they correct you like you're a child. Maybe they laugh at something you said, and not in a kind way. And you sit there. You swallow it. You smile because the grandkids are watching. And you tell yourself, it's fine, they didn't mean it. But they did mean it. And you know it. What we're dealing with here is verbal disrespect. And when it happens in front of an audience, a spouse, grandchildren, friends, it becomes something even worse. It becomes public humiliation. It is a form of emotional abuse, and I don't use that word lightly. The sign that this is damaging you is when you start shrinking yourself. You talk less. You share fewer opinions. You make yourself small so you won't become a target. You walk on eggshells in a house that should feel like home. This is what I tell every parent in my office who describes this situation. You look your child in the eye and you say these words, calmly, clearly, and without raising your voice. I love you, but I will not be spoken to that way, not in private, and certainly not in front of others. If they apologize and change, that's growth. That's beautiful. But if they dismiss you, mock you, or tell you that you're being too sensitive, then you stand up, you gather your things, and you leave. You leave with your head held high. Because no parent, no matter what mistakes they may have made, deserves to be humiliated by the very person they brought into this world. Time number 4, when your child sides with their spouse to shut you out. The fourth time is one of the most painful situations I see in my practice, and it's becoming more and more common. It starts slowly. You notice you're no longer invited to Thanksgiving. Birthday party photos show up on social media, and you weren't there. You ask to see the grandchildren and get vague answers. We're busy. Maybe next month. I'll let you know. And then you realize what's happening. Your child's spouse is quietly building a wall between you and your family. And your child, the one you raised, the one you sacrificed everything for, is standing on the other side of that wall, not fighting for you, not speaking up, just letting it happen. This is what psychologists call triangulation. There are three people in this dynamic: you, your child, and their spouse. And you are in the weakest position. Every attempt you make to get closer pushes you further away because your child is caught in the middle and has chosen their spouse's side. I want to be very honest with you here. This is not always your child being cruel. Sometimes they are genuinely torn. Sometimes they are afraid of conflict in their own marriage. But, and this is critical, understanding why they're doing it doesn't mean you have to accept the pain it causes you. The sign is heartbreaking, but clear. You feel like you need permission to be part of your own family. You are asking to see your grandchildren like you're requesting a favor from a stranger. Here is the hardest advice I will give you in this entire video. Sometimes, the only thing you can do is step back. Not storm out. Not send angry letters. Just quietly step back. Give your child the space to realize what they're losing. You cannot force someone to choose you. Not even your own child. But you can choose yourself. And sometimes, when you stop chasing, they start missing you. Not always. But sometimes. Time number 5. When your health is getting worse after every visit. Number 5 is the one people ignore the longest, and it's the most dangerous. Let me paint a picture. The night before you're supposed to visit your child, you can't sleep. Your stomach is in knots. Your blood pressure spikes. You take an extra pill just to get through the day. During the visit, you're tense every moment. You're watching every word, scanning every facial expression, bracing for conflict. And when you get home, you collapse. Not just physically, emotionally. You cry in the car. You sit in the dark for a while. You need 2, sometimes 3 days, just to feel like yourself again. Some of you are nodding right now because you know this feeling intimately. Here is what I need you to understand as both a psychologist and as someone who cares about you. Your body does not lie. When a relationship consistently triggers your stress response, elevated cortisol, increased heart rate, disrupted sleep, digestive problems, it is physically harming you. This is not metaphor. This is medicine. At our age, chronic stress is not just uncomfortable, it is dangerous. It weakens your immune system. It accelerates cognitive decline. It raises your risk of heart disease and stroke. Every visit that leaves you shattered is taking time off your life. That is the truth. The sign is unmistakable but hard to admit. You dread the visits. The anticipation fills you with anxiety, not joy. You've gone from counting down the days until you see your child, to counting down the minutes until you can leave. My advice is simple, and I won't sugarcoat it. No visit is worth your health. No relationship, not even with your child, is worth dying for in this way. If seeing your child is making you sick, you have not just the right but the responsibility to stop going. Your health at this stage of life is not something you can afford to gamble with. Take care of yourself first. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and right now, you're not just empty. You're cracked. Time number 6, when guilt is the only reason you're going. And now we come to the 6th and final time. And for many of you, this is going to be the most eye-opening one of all. Ask yourself this question right now. Be honest. Brutally honest. Why are you still going? Is it because you enjoy it? Is it because you feel welcomed and loved when you get there? Is it because these visits fill your heart? Or is it because a voice in your head, a voice that sounds a lot like society, like your friends, like the idealized version of parenthood, is whispering, a good mother would go, a good father wouldn't give up? If guilt is the engine that drives you to your child's door, you need to turn that engine off. Guilt-driven behavior is one of the most common traps I see in parents over 60. And it's devastating because it disguises itself as love. You think you're going because you love your child. But if you're honest, you're going because you're afraid of what it means about you if you don't. You're afraid you'll be a bad parent. You're afraid of what your friends will think. You're afraid your child will use your absence as proof that you never cared. But here's what I've learned in 40 years. Love does not require self-destruction. Love does not ask you to sacrifice your peace, your dignity, and your health on an altar of guilt. That's not love. That's a hostage situation. The sign is this. When someone asks, "How was your visit?" and your first instinct is to defend yourself, "Well, I had to go, they're my child." You're not describing joy. You're describing obligation. Here is what I want you to carry with you. You raised your children. You fed them. You clothed them. You stayed up with them when they were sick. You drove them to school, to practice, to college. You gave them decades of your life. You do not owe anyone, not even your children, the destruction of your remaining years. You have earned the right to live in peace. And anyone who makes you feel guilty for wanting peace does not have your best interest at heart. Now, I know some of you are sitting there right now thinking, "Okay, I see myself in this. I recognize these patterns. But what do I actually do?" Fair question. So let me give you 3 concrete steps. Step 1. Tonight, when the house is quiet, sit down and write. Write about your last visit. Not what happened, how you felt. Did you feel welcomed? Did you feel respected? Did you feel loved? Or did you feel tolerated, used, or invisible? Be brutally honest on that paper. Nobody's going to read it but you. Step 2. When you're ready, and only when you're ready, have a conversation or write a letter. Not an attack. Not a list of their crimes. A simple, dignified statement of how you feel. Something like this. "I love you more than you'll ever know. But I've been hurting, and I need you to hear me. When I visit, I don't feel welcomed. I don't feel valued. And I need that to change, not for my sake alone, but for us." How they respond to that letter, or that conversation, will tell you everything about the future of your relationship. Step 3. Give yourself permission to rest. Permission to not drive across town this weekend. Permission to not call and apologize for having feelings. Permission to spend a Sunday morning doing something that actually brings you joy, reading, gardening, sitting on your porch, watching the birds. You have spent decades being someone's parent. You are allowed, finally, to just be yourself. And if you need support through this, find it. A counselor. A support group. A friend who understands. You don't have to do this alone, and you shouldn't have to. Before I let you go, I want to speak to you directly. Not as a psychologist. Just as a human being who has spent a lifetime watching good people suffer in silence. If you're watching this video alone in a quiet house, maybe the same house where you raised those children, where the hallways used to echo with laughter and little footsteps, I want you to know something. You are not a bad parent for setting a boundary. You are not a failure for admitting this hurts. You are not selfish for wanting to be treated with basic human dignity by the people you gave everything to. You are, in fact, one of the bravest people I know. Because it takes more courage to look at a painful truth than to keep pretending everything is fine. You spent your entire life loving your children. Every sacrifice. Every sleepless night. Every dollar you went without so they could have more. That love doesn't disappear because you stopped driving to their house on Saturday. That love is permanent. It lives in you. And nobody, not even the child you're stepping away from, can take that from you. So here is my final thought for today, and I want you to carry it with you long after this video ends. You have spent a lifetime giving your love to others. Now it is time, it is past time, to give a little of that love to yourself. You deserve it. You've earned it. And I am so proud of you for being here today. If this video spoke to your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear these words. Leave a comment below and tell me your story. I read every single one. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Strong Elderly Life and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thank you for trusting me with your time today. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. You matter more than you know.